We will now begin the session 2, Enablers of Effective Shared Data Platforms. Now we will dive into the institutional and technical conditions that are needed to build sustainable shared data ecosystems. We will address governance models, data policy, infrastructure, and the importance of collaboration between agencies and stakeholders. Joining us for this session are Dr. Yeo Jun-ho, policy researcher at the National Institute of Green Technology, Mr. Kim Jin-seok, the director of the National Climate Data Center at Korea Meteorological Administration, Ms. Choi Ju-ok, executive principal at the National Information Society Agency, and Ms. Kim Soo-jung, director of the Data Promotion Division at the Ministry of Science and ICT. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Yeo to the podium for his presentation.
Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Jun-ho Yeo from NIGT, and currently I'm working as a policy researcher in there and identify myself as an economist. So today, it is my great honor to have the opportunity to deliver my insight in this meaningful space. And I'm quite surprised that I'm the first one to deliver this one. So today I'm gonna talk about the climate resilience, why it's important and why data sharing is needed, and also what we have done to do this data sharing. Yeah, so this is the first slide that I want to introduce about the background of climate resilience. But as I heard about all the remarks in the session 1, I don't think I need to speak out all the things in here. To briefly summarize, climate resilience is simply how quickly we can recover and how easily we can adapt in the climate change. And why climate resilience is important, because we can expect and cope with more effectively about the climate change and risks. And also we can optimize the resources based on the more qualified adaptation strategy. And so why data sharing matters? So first one is, as I just mentioned, the early warning and preparedness. So based on the early warning system, we can expect what would be happening in the future, and we can make the preparation to decrease the expected damage from it. So this to build this effective early warning system, of course, the abundance of the database is inevitable. And related to this one, vulnerability mapping and also adaptive planning is available. So the final one, I want to also emphasize this one, because we have always a limited amount of the resource. So to optimize it, we need to build the effective strategy and also the policy to enhance the effectiveness in the maximum scale. And this is the key components of data sharing, what I think. And the governance, technology, and partnership, I don't think that I have to explain this again, because in the title of the session, we already mentioned all these keywords. The governance is who's gonna be responsible for this data, and based on which legislation we're gonna have the responsibility. So based on the effective governance, we're gonna have the well-defined the role and responsibility to generate a database, which means more effectively to manage it. And technology, as I just introduced, I'm an economist. I have no abundance of the background knowledge about the technology side, but there's no doubt that the technology is really important to generate the data effectively and manage it. And the partnership, we are all the partners in here, and also we are here to build up the new partnership among all of us. So already we have the great partners in here, of course World Bank, we already have the field project, and CTCN. We recently organized the NDE forum to deliver about the AI knowledge to the NDEs from the developing countries. And the third one, that one is I want to emphasize the interoperability, because as a researcher, while collecting the data and utilizing it, I always need to define which unit, which standard, and which protocol is used to generate this, because if those standards are not mismatching, I need to reorganize them and regenerate the data to analyze it and then deliver the result. So what in interoperability, so we need some national data strategies of each country. So which means they need to have some one unified protocol to generate it. And also they need some of the mechanisms and also the legislative harmonization. So these all things can directly drive to the interoperability based on the unified standard. So these are key shifts for the climate data ecosystem that we can expect, but also this can be for and also expected from the effective climate data ecosystem. The first one is from fragmented to integrated. So currently, there are some countries have already built the effective data system, but still some other countries have the in the lack of the database of their own industry and the landscape. So in this term, we need to make it into integrated data ecosystem. And the second one is like, as I mentioned about the importance of the database. So we need to move on from reactive to predictive system, like an early warning system. And the third one, it should be the open data, but in here, of course, we need to consider about like how much we can reveal, because we need to always keep the privacy. That's one of the biggest issue. And the last one is from national to regional and global collaboration. So based on these, we need to make integrated the data ecosystem which can be shared with each other like a coral reef. So we need to know the where and which kind of data is there. Then we can make them more effective, more combined, the strategy for the future. So now it's time to promote my institute. So as I introduced before, I'm from National Institute of Technology. This is a government-affiliated institute under the Ministry of Science and ICT. So our purpose is to establish the green technology R&D policy and support for green cooperation among the countries. So these are for our major roles, but they're mainly focusing on the national policy planning and also global cooperation strategy. And additionally, we are focusing on the implementation of a human resource development policy. And in here, like about the data-related part, we have some accomplishments. The first thing is that we already generate 2 different statistical analysis. The first one is the climate technology industry statistics, and the second one is the national climate technology R&D analysis. So first one is like about more the industrial-based statistics, and second one is more based on the activities. So by integrating those 2 data, we generate the climate change response R&D activity survey. So based on, with this accomplishment, we were designated as an official agency to carry out the technology development activity surveys under the Act that's doubled. Act on the promotion of technology development for coping with the climate change. So the operationalizing the shift, previously I mentioned about the shift. So what we need, that means I want to emphasize the tool. We need the device. So among the key components, I emphasize the interoperability. So in creating the data, we have the major issues like incompatibility, also fragmented, and also the barriers. So to deal with this, the first one, we need to establish the unified data unit and also standardized protocol and integrated methodologies to enable the effective data sharing. So that means like in the final, to bring these all enablers and shift to life, we need to make a concrete and scalable methodology is essential. This is also affecting all the database research area. So for example, I'm currently also focusing on the life cycle assessment. Those life cycle assessment is also data-based research methodology, but all the standards are, even though it's like unified, but what I make an assumption or based on which perspective I see, the results can be different. So in here, we need some guideline to make it more concrete. Yeah, in this point, like I want to, as I just mentioned about like my major background, so I'm gonna go more deeper about this part. So currently, like we are focusing on the more direct carbon reduction emission. However, like currently, all the universe are focusing more about to cover the indirect emission part, because this is more straightforward to understand how much we affect in the future environment. So this is divided into the number of the scope. The scope 1 is like more direct, and scope 2 is like indirect emissions from the electricity and water, and the scope 3 is like over more indirect emissions. So in here, all the researchers are doing their best and putting their effort to develop the more effective and straightforward, the methodology to estimate and also predict the overall emission, including the indirect stuff. So this is one of the AI-driven carbon reduction calculation system. So this is like we designed this based on the cooperation with the University of Technology of Chura. So this has the simple procedure, but it's like covering more. So first, of course, we need some data collection. So this is based on the big data. So utilizing the AI, we need to analyze this collected data and develop and apply this assessment system. So this is a kind of like model and the processing unit. So we are planning to offer this as a platform for the SMEs to estimate how much they can reduce, how much they can devote to the climate change based on their R&D or new project. Yeah, this is the more methodological part. So in this one, we utilize the input and output analysis, which means like considering the relationship among the industries, and also the EEIO means like it's more environmentally connected, the IO analysis. So in here, we are connecting the IO analysis result with the more environmental emission side and monetize it based on the carbon credit. So in the future, application of the system can be like utilized to assess the national R&D project or the specific emerging climate technologies. So based on this, we can assess the ex ante impact of the climate emission reduction based on this new investment. So that's the major point, but also, of course, we can evaluate the ex post impact of this investment. So it means like we can also make the comparative analysis after we proceed the project. So if we can make this one more in the common, then all the SMEs, because like this kind of like analysis requires a lot of budget. So we can simply offer this processing unit to easily estimate their impact and also figure it out like how much they really achieved. Yeah, this is my last slide. My last slide. So I want to wrap up with what we can do for the effective data sharing. So as I mentioned before, like I'm just covering the more broader part of the data sharing and what is important and what we should focus. So the first one is like we need to enhance the trust and accountability of the data. So we need to establish the legal and ethical framework, like as Korea doing. And also we need to define the roles and ownership and content of protocols and build the institutional responsibility and public confidence. And second, we need to build the infrastructure to share, to connect the countries or regions. So we need to develop the interoperable platforms using the open standards so we can share all the data and then we can collaborate more to cover the risk. And the last one is scale. So as some part of the data is like missing, we don't have enough. So it means like we need to even start now. So if the small scale is okay, fine. So we need to start from the pilot, but of course we need to consider about the scaling up. We need to make it larger. So in here, of course, we can use our partnership to enhance this one. Because scale up project is hard to be delivered by the only one institute's effort. So in this place, I want to emphasize the last point. We need to, I want to cooperate more closely to scale the impact to deal with the upcoming, not it's the upcoming, it's already the climate risk. Thank you. This is my end of my presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Ya. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Kim Jin-seok from KMA. For international participants, please use the receiver for translation. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Kim Jin-seok, Director at KMA. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak today. Climate change is an existential threat. And in the face of climate change, KMA is working hard to mitigate climate change. And I would like to give you some of the examples that we are doing at KMA. So do you think that climate change is a serious threat? As you can see on the slide, globally, the temperature is rising. So after the Industrial Revolution, we see such a trend intensifying recently. And as you can see here on the right, the CO2 level is also going up. Now, this is the graphs for Korea. Now, on the upper left, you see the average temperature time series trend in Korea. And on its right, the temperature changes by season. And especially in spring and winter, we do see fluctuating temperature. You also see the number of tropical nights on an yearly basis. And we are struggling with more tropical nights in Korea, and you also see that we are also receiving rain in Korea. Now, this is for Korea as well. It shows you the greenhouse gas concentration, and that includes CO2, methane, nitrous oxide and SF6 and so forth. Next, this is owned by KMA. It shows the climate change situation map and how the Korean Peninsula will change over time. And as you can see from the graph, we'll see more heat waves and the seasons will change as well. And it gives you an illustration of what we are about to expect going forward. Now, the graphs and figures that I showed you are owned by KMA. And it's not just KMA, but other weather agencies also provide this type of data. And that is the result of our everyday work. And it's been about 100 years since we've been observing modern weather. So we, of course, provide today's weather and also tomorrow's weather. And we also provide the scenario over the next 100 years. And that builds on the historical data. Now, we sense the weather across the Korean Peninsula, and that brings us massive data set, and we analyze. So we use supercomputers to do the math, and then we'll be able to forecast tomorrow's weather. And once we start accumulating those data, we can predict the long-term future as well. Now, since we are talking about shared data, this is a slide that I would like to share with you. And this is what we do at KMA. And I'm sure that other weather agencies also do the same work. And we deliver this data to as many users as possible. And we share this data to the outside, and that in and of itself serves as KMA's mission and bring us insightful ideas. Now, we build our insight on the natural science, which is why we bring together IT and science to deliver the data. And that itself forms the organization of KMA. Now, to dive into data, the data offers us great insight. We observe the nature and we can forecast the future. And data allows us to do both. And when using data, of course, the data has to be homogeneous. At the same time, it has to be seamless, and it has to be produced and generated 24/7, and it has to be closely connected to humans' everyday life, which means that it is prone to convergence. And given that, the weather data that we have offers social as well as economic implications and significance. This is the data platform that we have and operate. Now, we want to increase our competitiveness, which is why we aim to spreading DNA. This is our motto. In short, we want to make sure that all the weather data across the world, not just that of KMA, is consolidated into one single platform so that you don't need to roam around in search of data. And we also have the forecasters working at KMA, and we want to make sure that the data is available to everyone at the same time. Also, they are not super processed like statistical data. We want to make sure that we also disclose semi-raw data. Now, we are in the process of building KMA Data Hub. And from 2023, we started to open our data at scale. And this is a busy slide, but we do see some outstanding outcome. For instance, data is used in research and also in disaster prevention. Well, that used to be the past trend. But as we disclosed and opened more data, we have a larger number of individuals and entities accessing our data. And we believe that the data set could be used to a larger audience going forward. I'm not sure whether I should tell you this or not, but this is quite technical. Now, of course, we own a massive amount of data. It reaches several petabytes. And we believe that it will go up to hexabyte by next year. And of course, we cannot generate that much data set in one platform, and we do it globally. So physical integration is near impossible, which is why we have the virtual data center. And that is why we have this platform. And at the same time, we want to make sure that the latency drops below 0.3 seconds. And to achieve that level, we are massively investing. And we also provide software-defined data center so that KMA private cloud can boost the efficiency of data usage. And you also have, for instance, satellite data and weather data from around the world, which will be all integrated into the data layer. And because we have to cater to many different types of formats, we have to aim for data standardization. And we also need a metadata governance to be able to govern these types of data better. And now API is something that we are looking at because of three reasons. Now, if you look at weather data, you have to deliver that data as fast as possible. And it changes even as we speak, because the 6-hour interval weather data will change every 10 minutes. At the same time, the data set is massive, so we cannot provide raw data, which is why we need to be able to extract from the data set and provide the useful data only. And hence comes into the picture API. And we also want to provide the analytical platform to provide an all-in-one service going forward. And moving on to KMA data governance. Now, if you look at the organization, my organization is responsible for governance of data. And while my center, the weather center, is responsible for that. And we also have a governance committee so that we can reach wise decision making. And on the right, you do see some of the standards that we follow. We have open data, and we also have closed data. That would be internal data. But without specific reasons, we want to make sure that it is open by default. This is free of charge. And you can also use the data as much as possible, but only indicate the source. But the final accountability will fall on the user. And I briefly talked about what KMA does. This is my final slide. I would like to make some proposals and suggestions. Yes, of course, we need to share data. But as you know, data is the new oil and power. Now, there are some people who do not want to disclose their data, and we face that every day. But you cannot simply ignore them. And now, from our organization's point of view, of course, data provision is one of our mission, which is why we need to be open in terms of mindset and attitude. And our top level executives also have such a mindset. So we do have that organizational culture within KMA, which I believe drives innovation in terms of data sharing. Number two, we need investment, especially investment in quality, because low quality will damage your confidence. You do not want to disclose your data if quality is low or poor, which is why quality matters. And in terms of a climate crisis, as you know, it poses indiscriminate impact on people. And we do see this intergenerational gap. And now this is not something that we can tackle overnight. So from that perspective, as I mentioned earlier, KMA needs to observe the weather data in an objective manner, and we actually have a massive amount of data set. And with that, we can mitigate and fight climate change. And we need to wisely use the data to be able to provide evidence-based reasoning to the people, rationale to the people. And we will work towards that endeavor. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Now I would like to invite Ms. Kim from NIA.
All right, nice meeting you. Thank you for having me today. And I will be talking about infrastructure to impact data sharing in Korea's open data ecosystem. This presentation covers Korea's open data framework and key enablers of Korea's open data infrastructure, and looking ahead and lessons we have learned. So I hope by the end of this presentation, you may have your answer to how to build a data sharing platform, creating a successful open data ecosystem. I'm going to introduce Korea's open data framework. So we have identified 7 essential components for successful open data ecosystem. From the top and the left, and governance and laws and regulation and standards, system, assessment, and guidelines and utilization. And these 7 components are further composed of a specific element that are necessary for the successful promotion of open data. The 7 components comprising the framework are minimum requirement for building a high quality and sustainable ecosystem for open data. And additional components might be necessary depending on each country's situation. Key enablers of Korea's open data infrastructures are summarized in 3: trust, sovereignty, and interoperability. As data and both users of human and machines like AI are authenticated, data and the users are trustworthy. And second, the managing history of data trade and transaction by either data catalog and metadata are to ensure the sovereignty of data owners. Third, as interoperability between government systems has been secured, users can easily search and use open data at any platform. Then let's take a closer look at the Korea's open data infrastructure and how these enablers work in Korea's open data infrastructure. From the top, data sovereignty in red, and in the middle, data usage in green, and data management in blue. And Korea, on your left, Korea National Data Infrastructure is like a framework or initiative like Data Space and Gaia X in Europe. And on your right side, public data infrastructure in Korea is more tangible architecture. All right, let's begin then. When we talk about the securing data sovereignty, we need to make sure that data owners' rights and interests should be well distributed. All public institutions in Korea are required to make public data readily available to anyone who wishes to have it at a single window, which is open data portal, due to the Accord law. Therefore, in Korea, data sovereignty is not of much concern. Therefore, we could focus more on managing how data is reliably used. From data usage perspective, both human users and machines like AI should be able to access data easily for their use. Humans can simply log in with their ID password or with a private authentication method, while machines use service keys to verify themselves. So let's move on to third, data management. Since establishment of open data laws followed by various guidelines, we have a consolidated standardized data quality, achieving excellent interoperability. Then I will talk about how things have changed so far and how they will continue to change. For now, in compliance with laws and regulation, individual organizations were able to achieve standardization while transitioning from their legacy system. As the Korean open data infrastructure is underway of refurbishment for the very moment, grand opening will be someday in 2027. So in future, implementing shared interface or adapters would enable individual organization to achieve standardization as a result interoperability. Most importantly, without having completely overhauling their legacy system. Then what we have learned from our experience of data sharing in Korean open data infrastructure. Data platform inevitably evolve from open to sharing models. So in an open data ecosystem where anyone can access and share data and even expand into active use like policy analysis. For this really work, and all these key elements I have mentioned need to be seamlessly integrated. Second, building a data ecosystem requires holistic redesign of data national infrastructure, not a single system. One of the first things we have to do is setting clear metadata and classification standards. Third, it's very important to understand that a top-down central government-led approach alone is not enough. We need active participation and autonomy from each ministry and agency. This is how we make the system sustainable. And finally, instead of blindly copying what other countries have done, we should start with assessment, where one's data ecosystems stand. So one size does not fit all. Only then can we create the solution that fit one's need. That's it for today. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Chen. Now I would like to invite Ms. Kim Soo-jung from Ministry of Science and ICT.
I'm Kim Soo-jung from, I'm Director of Ministry of Science and ICT of Korea. Actually, it's almost lunchtime, so I will finish as soon as possible. But I guess it's at 7 minutes, so you can concentrate on my presentation. But I will speak Korean instead of speaking English because Korean is more comfortable for me.
Thank you very much, World Bank, for this meaningful event, and thank you for having me here. Well, in fact, when it comes to data sharing, I am quite interested in this topic. And in terms of policies, I also look very closely at how we can improve data sharing so that we, in overall, can contribute to the industries in Korea. Now, when it comes to data sharing in Korea, it's never easy, but if data can be shared globally, then I do believe that we can drive innovation, and that is my aspiration. And today I would like to talk about the data policies here in Korea. And in times of crisis, of course, data sharing can be a challenge. But in fact, in times of crisis, we come together. So we work with the private sector to overcome the challenges. And I would like to talk about some of the examples of Korea. Now, this is the changing context of Korea and also other countries, and the data policies are also evolving fast. 5 years ago, we did not have Gen AI. At the time, well, that was about 2019, Korea introduced the data dam. That was the New Deal of Korea. And it was a government initiative. And then COVID-19 erupted. And at the time, we wanted to prepare for data economy. So we actually spent 1.6 trillion to build a dam. And we also provided more than 10,000 of data vouchers. And we have been also building 21 platforms. And as you can see here, we have also adopted a language model. And that drove the development of AI, and AI started to be used across the everyday life. Now we want data to be reliable, and we want to trust AI. And our aspiration became to use AI in a more trustworthy manner. And our policies had to be aligned with the needs of the people. And we were very interested in providing accurate data, which can provide professional knowledge. And by using the power of AI, we are now fine-tuning the services that we provide to the users. And now this is the direction of the policies in Korea. I'm sure that you've heard of vertical AI. So we want to build on the expertise by sector to scale up, and be it direct or indirect. We make sure that the government can secure such a data. And on the far right, you will see the data that is mostly owned by the private sector. But then most of the time, we have to look at data privacy, and we also need to erase any identifying information. And because of that regulation, we have created a safe zone. And within the safe zone, we can use data in a secure manner. At the same time, well, because it might violate the regulations and law, we use a data sandbox to make sure that data is available to everyone in a more convenient fashion. At the same time, well, when you look at data, data cannot sit on one platform only. Of course, we do want a unified platform, but that's not feasible. And it is distributed across various platforms and organizations. But we need a solution or an approach where people can easily access such a data. So it's a one platform initiative that we provide, and we connect the platforms provided by the government agencies as well as the private sector. And using the data catalog, we make it easy for people to access and search data. And we also boost the interoperability and make sure that the data becomes more reliable. And in fact, we want to make sure that we connect the dispersed data across the nation and regions. And over time, we do believe that the unified data will become more powerful. Now, this is closely related to the topic of today's roundtable. The first was the 2020 COVID-19 case. And we had some confirmed cases, of course, at the time, and we tracked their routings. And of course, we did introduce this during World Bank workshops and the UN conferences, but this was very unique to Korea because the mobile penetration rate is about 98% in Korea. It's super high. And now we have telco stations every 100 meters, and most of the people use credit cards. Let's say, well, you want to pay 51, you will still use your credit card, and no one will blame you for that. And we do have the collection tool, and we have many CCTVs across the nation. And in the face of the pandemic, we had the legal and institutional framework ready. And by utilizing that, we were able to track 95% of the people's routes and their movement. And that can be scary, but COVID-19 was very scary. And during the early phase, when COVID-19 was rampant, this was not 100% effective, but over time, effectiveness went up. And then about mask allocation. So we did not have enough masks in the early days of COVID-19, and people did not know where to buy masks. And at the time, HERA and the government provided the public data, and the cloud service providers developed a solution in 2 weeks so that every Korean could locate pharmacies or drugstores that offered or sold masks. And also, we did have some failures of servers, but then, while building on the past experience of mask provision, we were able to distribute the authentication system. And the fourth one is the most recent one, that's 2023 case. And because of climate change, we suffered heavy rain. And now Sejong houses a city called Osong. And at the time, many people lost their lives underground. And now at the time, we wanted to overcome climate change better. And the conclusion was that the government cannot take care of this 100%. But what we can do is to leverage on the technologies that we already own. And most of the drivers in Korea use GPS. And now, by providing warning messages on their GPS, let's say that you're 3 kilometers out or 1.5 kilometers out to the flooded region, then a message will pop up on your GPS screen, and you can take another route. And we received phone calls from GPS providers in Korea. We formed a TF to come up with a solution. And the Ministry of Environment also provides the flood control data to us every 10 minutes. And the GPS providers, so they can reflect such an information to their GPS. And last year, we wanted to implement this 100% in flood seasons, but then thankfully we did not receive so much rain last year. And this is a project that I was involved from the early days. And I also talked about this system early on. And this is a slide that shows the PPP platform. And during COVID, well, we actually learned our lessons, and building on that lesson, we created this crisis management system. And this was the outcome. And we worked with NIA. We had two speakers from NIA before, and this was cloud-based, and it's called Civic Hackers. And now in times of crisis, the civic hackers are brought on board, and we move in an agile manner. So having a ready system is always important. So sometimes we would do simulation training with the hackers. And let's say that the server failed, and now the people do not know what to do, or whenever we face a crisis, then we can use this system to better respond to the crisis. And next, now preparing for this presentation, I was looking up some of the examples that we did with other countries. And one example would be ASEAN Joint Data Ecosystem Project. And back in 2023, the president adopted this as part of the ASEAN Joint Declaration. He declared that he will embark on a flagship project. Well, you can see the numbers and the dates here on the slide. And well, 4 projects will be carried out under the joint data project. And one of them is the ecosystem project. And we want to make sure that we can pass on our knowledge to other countries. And many Asian countries are not familiar with the concept of data sharing. And with the rise of new concepts such as sovereign AI, we need to close the gaps and stay aligned. So be it data privacy or confidential data protection, we have to make sure that we address some of the loopholes and negotiate with other countries. And we believe that by July this year, we will reach a conclusion. And under ASCAP, with Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, we also shared data using a shared platform. So we have our own, they have their own, and what we do here is to share and exchange data. And of course, these have to be clean data. And we have this trilateral architecture model that we want to build. And we are working on some of these projects to solve social problems and challenges. And global AI and well, in terms of policies and regulations, we want to be a leader. So we work with OECD to spread the safe use of AI. So we take a great pride in that. And this is the last part. This is about data sharing suggestion. And in the age of AI, data's importance is rising. And data is the new gold, as we heard before. And of course, other speakers also mentioned that the quality overweighs the quantity, which is why from design to planning, we have to work together and share know-how. And in that process, I have been responsible for this for many years because I am now the director, and I assumed this position about 15 months ago. And even before that, I was a working level staff responsible for data. And the needs are changing, so we have to study the technologies, the regulations, the law. So this is no easy task. And we also need to work on the compliance part and also be alert to emerging technologies. However, it's something that we have to do. And I believe that the examples that I showed you were very successful cases. So when working with the private sector, we almost never failed. So now we need to be using the technologies that we use in our everyday life. And the private sector, they can offer cutting edge technologies. So we need to bring forces with the private sector to jointly address the social challenges. And by doing so, my experience tells me that we have a higher shot at succeeding. Now, the presidential election is going on in Korea, and to succeed in the age of AI, we need more concrete plan. So actually, my team is super busy, but still, I really loved the topic brought by the World Bank, which is why I am here. And I do believe that we need to collaborate with other Asian countries and other partners. And we need more opportunities to network and exchange insight. And whenever you please invite me to other occasions like this, and I will be there for sure. Thank you.